Ready? Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The League of Women Voters of Tulare County is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. Nonpartisan means we do not support or oppose any candidate. We do have opinions about propositions, and you can find those on the League of Women Voters California website. The League was established to promote political responsibility through informed, active participation in government. We are strong supporters of the election process and encourage citizens to exercise their constitutional right to vote and to reach out to family members and friends and encourage them to vote as well. The League would like to thank the Tulare County Office of Education for making this possible. They give these buildings to nonprofit organizations, the candidates for their willingness to participate, and to our partner organizations. So before we begin, Hippolito has something he'd like to say.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Hippolito Angel Ceros, and I'm the proud mayor for the city of Lindsay. And I just wanted to take this time to make an announcement. You know, after careful consideration, I've decided to suspend my campaign for state assembly tonight. This was a decision that I did not, take very lightly. It was very difficult. I was so excited to run, so excited to share my ideas, my values, and my vision for the district. But right now, the city of Lindsay needs me. The people need me, and I really want to invest all my time and energy into them. And so with that, I just wanted to share that. And this may or may not be the last time you guys hear from me, given my passion for public service, but again, my people need me. The city needs me, and I really want to devote my time. So with that, I came here out of respect to all of you in attendance, the candidates, and the people who organized this, to just share that, and I wish the candidates the very best, and I look forward to working alongside with one of the future assembly members. So thank you.
Okay, to begin the forum, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Paul Hurley, the opinion editor of the Visalia Times Delta.
Past, former, and recovering. Thank you. Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. By the way, the applause that you just gave for Hippolito will be the last applause that you offer until the end of the forum. Please, okay? This is a forum for California Assembly District 33. We are using the League of Women Voters format for it. Please hold all applause until the forum is finished. There are many here who favor one person, and if we applaud for each as they speak, we will have less time for questions to be answered. At the end, we can give all the candidates a rousing round of applause, we hope. Candidates will have 1.5 minutes each for their opening statement, 1.5 minutes to respond to each answer. Did we negotiate that down at all, by the way?
Yes.
Oh,
no.
No, it's still 1.5. Okay.
Yeah, 1.5. That's what they do at the big time.
All right, and 2 minutes each for closing. The timekeepers will keep track of the time by raising cards when there are 30 seconds and 15 seconds left for their replies. Pages are passing out index cards and collecting your written questions and giving them to the screeners. And they've been around already. They're pretty enthusiastic, so you probably all already have a card. If you don't, you can raise your hand and they will come right to you. Screeners group questions into categories of a similar nature. The purpose of this is to sort out duplicate questions. Assure topics of greatest interest are asked within the time available, and put personal questions aside, as well as inappropriate questions, ad hoc attacks, etc. Candidates are seated in alphabetical order. When was X the beginning of the alphabet? Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong order, sorry. That will be the order for opening statements. The order is reversed for closing statements. Questions will be asked in random order. Our two screeners this evening are Sherry Bentley, AAUW, and Catherine Doe, Valley Voice. They're right behind. The timekeepers are Dale Simmons and Kathy Falconer of the League of Women Voters. Raise your cards. Yeah, they're right up here. Let's start with opening statements, beginning with Xavier, Avila.
First, I gotta figure out how to work this thing.
Voice activated.
It's voice activated. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you, League of Women Voters, for having us, and thank you all for coming.
Anthony's gonna check it.
Oh, does it sound like it's loud?
Yeah.
I'm gonna switch out.
Yeah.
He's Portuguese, he doesn't need a microphone.
That's true, I really don't. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. I'm gonna talk because I talk loud anyway. Is that all right?
I was using the microphone.
Okay, yes, sir.
Just as a-
How's that? All right. My name is Xavier Avila. Was born in Hanford, grew up in Tipton on a large ranch farm, dairy farm. I started off working in the fields, hoeing weeds, driving tractors, and then I did every job with a cow you could think of. Started my own dairy in 1992 down in Pixley. Got married to my wife Susie. We have 7 kids. They're all ex names because I thought I was going to move to Texas and I could say all my exes live in Texas. That didn't happen, so all my exes live in California. I joined a number of different farm groups. To sum up all those, I've spent 9 years on the corporate board of Land O'Lakes, which is a Fortune 200 company, $14 billion company. I served on the policy a resolutions committee and the PAC committee, and we worked on a lot of farm issues, water, milk pricing, farm bill stuff, disaster relief, different things like that. So then I got on the hospital board here. Tony Maldonado documented that. That closed down. We reopened with Adventist Health. It was a big deal. So I have a lot of experience there. In healthcare, I also serve on the Adventist Health Central California Network Board with 8 hospitals and 128 clinics. Thank you.
Go ahead, you're.
Hello, my name is Rubén Macareno. I'm currently a board of trustees in the city of Farmersville. I have lived in Tulare County since I was 30 days old. I'm not a native born Tulare County, but my parents came down to California to get that American dream and the golden fields of California. And here I was 30 days old and I started my stay here. One of the things that I've learned through my path is that giving back is always so important. When I was as young as a 3rd grader with my first elected office, since then I've been elected office, but in middle school, high school, college, I continue to participate in many varieties of ways. And I love this. I love engagement. I love talking about the democratic process. I like to hear what opponents have to say. I like to also share my vision for a better California. I think that's best for all of us. Putting aside all the partisanship and all that, I think that either one of us would be a great member of the assembly. And I believe that wholeheartedly, and I think that's one thing that we have to do is stand up behind those that are elected. And I'll have more to say later. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rubén. Alejandra Macedo.
I will correct you, it's Alexandra Macedo, but I appreciate the effort. We've got one of those names that are difficult to say, but you'll learn it, I hope. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. It's an honor. I love meeting the people of our public, and you getting involved in your politics is what makes the difference. A little bit about me. I was born and raised in Tulare to a family deeply rooted in agriculture. I grew up on my grandparents' dairy, and if I wasn't there, I was at my family's livestock market that started in the year 1939, and I am now the 4th generation and the first female to be involved in our livestock market. And when I wasn't there, I was with my mom, who's a civil engineer, attending policy meetings and planning agency meetings and things of that nature. And so If I wasn't there, I was sometimes at Tulare City Council chambers with my father, who was involved in politics for years. And as you can tell, I come from a legacy of people that care and have a passion for our community. And I want to carry on that legacy, and I have that passion. And so I thought to myself, how do I prepare myself to do that? So I went and got educated. I got my bachelor's in business law from Cal State Northridge, came back home, partnered with my mom in her business, went back to school, went to law school, and got my Juris Doctorate at San Joaquin College of Law. And I now own my own business, which is Macedo Environmental Consulting. And I work with the various state agencies to make sure we can protect the industry of agriculture. And now I want to do it in Sacramento as your assemblywoman. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. And finally, Angel Ruiz.
Muy buenas noches.
Angel Ruiz.
Doesn't work.
Muy buenas noches, mi nombre es Ángel Ruiz. Empiezo hablando español para darle respeto a las personas que vinieron enfrente de mí, como mis papás y mis abuelos. I start speaking in Spanish just so I can show respect to the people that came before me. I'm an immigrant from Guatemala. I came here when I was 7 years old. I went to community college, started a small family business that's still thriving right now. Mom and dad graduated from college. I graduated from college. I helped them get an education. I helped my brother get an education. After that, I moved to the Central Valley, where I have called this place home. I have volunteered for numerous nonprofit organizations. I've been involved from anything to the census to counting the unhoused, being involved in everything that you can think of, multiple council meetings, county board of supervisors, and everything else that involves our community. I now work for a union labor. And I've been doing that for quite some time. Now more than ever, I think it's our time to be involved in politics. It's time to find common ground between us and Sacramento and not divide us.
Thank you all very much. Those are excellent opening statements. You all made a great start. Just before I ask the first question of all the candidates, I'd like to remind them and everyone in the audience that tonight's program is being live streamed on the Valley Voice website. And Facebook, League of Women Voters, no, Visalia Times Delta, Tulare Advance Registered, Facebook page, and website. All right. We're going to ask the first questions in the order that we started our. No, we're not. We can start with a new order. Alexandra, this one is first for you. Do you know what precipitated California's $68 billion deficit? And as an assembly member, what do you propose to do about it? Which I presume means lower it or eliminate it.
You know, it's really unfortunate with the budget deficit when we can't even come to a consensus on what that number is. If you listen to Governor Newsom this week, his number was dramatically lower than the projected number, and the honest truth is we don't know what that number is. And years of reckless spending, lack of oversight, lots of things that I think are correctable in Sacramento have put us in the situation that not only do we have a budget deficit, we have people that are struggling to pay their bills, we have people that are unhappy in their communities, and all of those things need to change. Things like repealing the gas tax is really important. Working with various levels of employers and employees to make sure that they're happy and safe in their communities, making sure that they're spending their dollars here, they're staying here, they're getting their paychecks here. We have a mass exodus from California because the 1% who pay the 52% of our taxes are the ones leaving. And so as long as that happens, we're going to have to continue cutting projects and different things that are beneficial to our community. So making sure that we're working on all levels and communicating from local levels all the way up to the state level is how I plan to make sure that we continue to chip away at this budget crisis.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I asked about a $68 billion deficit. Apparently the number is now $37.8 billion.
Allegedly.
So, catching up on this. Xavier.
Is this still working? Yeah, so whether it's 68 or 37, it's a bad economy, and the way taxes are set up. California pays some of the highest tax in the country, and it taxes, income tax is a big part of that. And so California is also very hostile to business. That's why so many businesses are leaving. And when you hurt businesses, it's really the economy too. When people don't make money, there's not as much to tax. So, but it's a vicious cycle, because as more businesses leave, they take good, high-paying jobs with them. And when you take high-paying jobs with you, those are where a lot of the taxes are collected. Low-paying jobs don't pay very much in tax. This problem is going to be reoccurring. It's going to happen next year and the next year until you see the economy take up, get better. California is going to keep losing billions of dollars every year. So how to fix that is take all the regulations out that are hurting businesses, make businesses want to stay, make businesses want to come in, and create a business environment where people make money. Because when people make money, you can tax them. Am I out of time? Well, I guess I'm done. Thank you.
You're done good, it's okay. Angel Ruiz, what about California's deficit, and what do you plan to do about it?
So,
Doesn't work. Thank you. So first we have to see how we got here, right? The reason why we're in a deficit is because when COVID hit, we were having too much money. And we were spending it left and right rather than save some for a rainy day, as I've been saying in my entire life. The first thing we need to do is have essential spending, right? We can't spend on things that are luxury goods right now for the state. So the most important thing is our healthcare. The second is education. And third is not cutting any programs that are involving with children, right? And then eventually from there, we will have to tax a little bit more so we can get out of this deficit and continue to build more on what we need to have for a rainy day.
Thank you very much. And candidates, thank you for bearing with us while we have some difficulties with the microphones. Our tech staff is working on it. Rubén Macareno, finally, what would you do as an assembly member to alleviate California's deficit?
Well, it's true, the numbers have been changing, so it's hard to kind of talk about it's 68 billion or 37 billion. We are talking billions and billions of dollars. And how do we really fix that? They say because we have an economy that's resilient right now, and that's why the changes in the numbers, and we'll continue to see those changes. However, when 60% of our general fund comes from our income tax, we have the 1% that pays almost 50% of that. So we need to figure out how we're going to keep those dollars in California. I mean, right now it's been a real struggle for most companies, especially if we need to be more business friendly, corporate friendly, that sort of thing. But at the same time, we also have responsibilities to the communities that we serve. We have many underserved communities today, so this deficit is going to hurt them more than anyone. So the way to do it is to kind of communicate with other assembly members, to network and talk about how are we going to quote unquote save California. We need to be able to build those coalitions to get that think tank out there and say, okay, hey, we're all in this together. Not just the 33rd, but the 56th and this first and the second. But we need to be able to come together and think about how we're going to truly save California. How are we going to address lost my train of thought, but how are we going to address actually still helping those communities that are underserved at the same time saving the very upper crust of our 1% to stay in California to pay those taxes? Thank you.
Thank you. Rubén, keep that mic hot. This one's coming at you now too. Second question. We're gonna at least ask these first two questions that we've come up with before we start sending some of the questions from the audience to you. But this one is about undocumented workers. What benefit do undocumented workers bring to Assembly District 33? And what is your opinion of the state extending them health care benefits?
The undocumented, to me, it is, they actually offer a service to us. They, as many of you probably heard over and over again, they do the work that many people don't want to do. They'll do it perhaps even less than minimum wage, and yet they have a lot of responsibilities and all that, and they're here. From a humanistic point of view, they need to have health care. They need to be able to survive. They need to be able to eat. This issue is at the federal level, I think, as opposed to the state level. We as Californians have an obligation to offer that health care to all Californians. They're picking our fruits. They're the ones that, we're eating those salads, we're doing all those sort of things. We need to be able to provide them that type of service, and also a living wage. I think it's very, very important. I think we all live better that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Angel Ruiz, what benefits do undocumented workers bring to your district? And what do you think of extending healthcare benefits to undocumented people?
First off. Thank you for helping.
It's like there's a second game going on here. Find the live mic.
I can speak without it.
Okay, you hear me now? Okay. Okay, so what benefit do they bring? I mean, we have 65.5% of people that live here are Latinos. 90% of them work in farm, rural community areas, right? They work in dairies, they pick our fruits, our vegetables, right? It's 116 degrees outside, and sometimes they're in there working day in and day out. They don't take a day off, they don't have holidays. They only, wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning and it's really cold outside because it's 28 degrees right now, right? So what benefit do we have? We absolutely need them. When it comes to healthcare, you can't ask somebody to work 60 or 50 hours a day and not have something so essential as healthcare. What happened in Lindsay? We don't have a hospital. What happened in Corcoran? The hospital burned down. What happened in Tulare? We have one childbirth a week. That's frightening. That's scary. Of course, I support Assembly District. I support healthcare for them. I support bill that just passed was for. So anything that I can do to help them in the assembly. And like I said, we need to build common ground between District 33 and Sacramento. And not divide us because we desperately need it.
Thank you. Xavier, Avila, what benefit do undocumented workers bring to our local district? And what do you think about extending healthcare benefits to undocumented immigrants?
Well, first of all, I want to say, people are people, and I believe in the individual, and I believe everybody was created in the image of God. And so, documented or undocumented, you're a human being. That said, I'm also an American, and we have laws. And I'm the grandson of an immigrant, and I think America is a great country because of immigration. But I believe in legal immigration. And the problem is, if you look at what's happening on the border right now, there's so many people coming in that to take care of everybody, you're going to run out of money. We talked about budget issues in the state. The more people, if you pay health care, then that's going to attract more people. So the problem is going to be, if you don't have a budget that can support that, and people go where the benefits are, we're going to run out of money, and then that hurts everybody. So I am not for it. I think we need to regulate. I do believe in legal immigration. I think a population that is growing is good for the economy. If you look at Russia and China, their populations are free-falling and their economies are going to take with it. So I value human beings, but we got to take care of our people.
Thank you. Finally, Alexandra, you heard the question 3 times, so
think I got it.
Yeah, I think you got it, go ahead.
Yes. So the question is, do we have a benefit from undocumented workers? Absolutely. I work in the agriculture industry and they are the backbone of what we do. We are so grateful for these men and women who show up with their boots on, ready to work. And one thing I will tell you about my family is there is no job that I believe should be too good or not good enough for somebody, but they're willing to work, and that they have my respect for that. Of course they are beneficial. Now, in a perfect world, that we didn't have a $68 billion deficit, I would love all of us to have health care. But I was at an event last night that in Tulare County, we have 30 doctors per 100,000 people. The recommended amount is 60 to 80. We already have limited resources for people that we are encouraging people to come here from even other states and provide them health care and free health care. So in a perfect world, I absolutely would love to make sure everybody has access to health care, everybody has access to affordable health care, and doctors feel supported and enjoy doing what they're doing. Unfortunately, this isn't a perfect world, and I would love to secure the border and look at what the problem is in front of us right now, and what can we do for the people that are here now. And I've worked in immigration law, so I understand how difficult that immigration process can be. But let's look at that and finding pathways to citizenship for those people so they can become tax-paying citizens who have access to our wonderful healthcare system.
Thank you all. Now our third question takes a whole different direction. And Alexandra, pay attention because you're going to be the first one to answer it. Right now, at present, the California Assembly is passing bills and writing new bills in 2024 to make California a safe haven for residents from states where abortion is illegal. These safe haven bills do not pay for abortions, but provide privacy protections for doctors and their patients against the enforcement by other states' laws that criminalize abortion. How will you vote on such bills?
I believe all life is precious. I believe that every man, woman, and child was created by God, and we should fight to protect that because we weren't going to have anybody here if we're not given a chance at life. I want women to feel safe. I want women to feel supported. I want doctors to feel safe and supported. But I don't know if that's the answer either. This is such a hot button topic that regardless of if you're pro-life or pro-choice, people feel scared and people feel confused by this because it's a taboo thing to talk about. And we can't be afraid to talk about it. So I believe in protecting California and the people that are in California. And if we need to be refuge for people because they are unsafe, that's one issue. But the abortion thing for me is one of those things that as a female, I want females to have the resources they need and the support they need and know that they have a choice in their life and in their health care.
Xavier, this is a really long question, so I don't want to repeat the whole thing, but you get the gist, right? How would you vote on any safe haven bills for protection of patients who might be seeking abortions in California who are from other states?
Well, I would see the unborn child as a patient, as a human being. You asked this question earlier, what benefits do undocumented people bring? I didn't even bring up they bring value just because they work. I brought their value because they're a human being, whether they work or they don't work. And I believe the unborn have that same value. So I would vote no on anything like that. California needs to stick to Californians and let other states worry about other states. If California wants people to move here, then fix what's wrong with California instead of flying people in to get an abortion and flying back. That's the whole thing about the Constitution is states' rights. If you like a state where you're at, you can live there. If you don't, move. But no, I would definitely vote no on any of that. I'm pro-life. I believe the unborn are human beings and they have value.
Thank you. Angel Ruiz?
I would send this.
Hello, can you hear me? I would tie this to healthcare again. This is a healthcare issue. It's a problem not just in the United States, but it's a problem here in AD 33. Places like here, well, you don't even have to go too far. Think about Visalia, right? What happened at the city council when Planned Parenthood was trying to open a clinic for women's access to healthcare, and everybody, was out there nearly rioting. And, the access to healthcare that we need and that women need, I'm always for that. I will support anything that has to do with healthcare and the right of women. I don't remember reading anything in the Constitution that says, Angel has the right to take access away from people of healthcare. So I strongly support that. As long as it's healthcare access, as long as it's in my district, as long as it's in Assembly District 33, Early Mark, Pixley, Porterville, Avila, those areas that don't have healthcare access and that don't have clinics, I will support that 100% of the way.
Thank you. Rubén Macareno will ask you, remember we were talking about safe haven laws for patients who are seeking abortions in California after moving from states where it has been declared illegal or restricted.
This issue's always been a very difficult one for most people for many, many reasons. I mean, personally, I don't believe in taking away a woman's right to do what she wants to do with her body. However, if the decision was based on me, on my family, I'm pro-life in that regard. But I wouldn't put my standard on somebody else, because their life, their world, their whatever's going on with them is something very personal, intricate in their lives, and it's going to affect them for the rest of their lives and perhaps even the family's lives. I believe that, I would vote yes. I would vote yes that on those safe haven votes when they would come up, because I believe that we need to be able to give quality health care for someone is looking for it, women in particular. If we go backwards, there's so many ugly stories about what used to happen when we didn't have that here, and we can't go that way. However, that decision should be based on the family, the woman, her husband, her family, if it's more inclusive. It's always been a very difficult issue for no matter who you are, and that's one of the tough ones. But yes, I would vote for safe haven votes when they would come up.
Thank you, candidates all, for moving along so quickly. We've got 3 questions down. Those have all been from our committee. We are now going to ask one from our audience. We're going to try to sprinkle those in as we go along to make sure that our audience gets a chance to address their questions to you. This is for all of you, starting with Angel. Considering the state of California's transgender rights, what is your definition of a woman? I guess I could also say, what is your definition of a man? But it's written, what is your definition of a woman?
Well, oh my gosh. Take mine and you give me a
Hello. What is the definition? For one, I'm not a doctor. Let's start there, right? Number 2, I don't think it's up to me to decide what your definition is. I've yet to, I don't think that's something that I can address. I think that's something personal. That's something between you and your doctor. That's something between you and your partner. That's something between you and your family. That will be my stance on that. That's a really question. I didn't think about that question, but I was preparing for this.
Somebody out there did.
Thank you for that question.
Rubén, what's your definition?
I wouldn't doubt that there's someone in this room that knows a transgender family, friend, or somebody. And in doing and having that relationship, you realize how important it is to them that they're identified as what they want to be identified as. And I think that we need to give them that respect. Now, we're talking about my definition, not necessarily an official state definition, but for me, my definition is, if there's a man that is a woman or wants to be a woman, then I would address her as she, her, etc. Because that's her preference. And same thing as a man, wants to be, you know. So I think that's important that we start honoring each other for what we want to be. The world has changed so much, and we're all getting used to these new pronouns, and so used to not trying to offend somebody. Let's just sit back a bit, and let's look and have the empathy in regards to that particular person. How would you feel if you were called a she and you're a he? You know, because that's how they feel. We need to identify that. Moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rubén, for attempting to answer that very difficult question. Alexandra, you know it's going to come to you eventually, so.
Well, I won't, none of you have to assume, I'll just let you know I am a woman. I am very proud to be a woman. I think it's a beautiful thing to be a woman. My body can create life. My body can do things that a man's body cannot do. And I am very supportive of the LGBTQ community. I want everybody in our community to feel safe and supported, and that is regardless of what your beliefs are or anything like that. I have a really hard time with, you know, do I feel comfortable with having a man in the bathroom with me? You know, probably not. Do I feel comfortable with children being able to make decisions of what their gender is before they're emotionally mature enough to appreciate the magnitude? No, I do not. I want people to feel comfortable, and if they feel comfortable with me using their proper pronouns, I'm happy to do that. And if you tell me you're a woman, you know, you don't need that reassurance from me. You know who you are. If you are a purple polka dotted unicorn, I'm so happy for you, and I hope you're happy in your home. I support you for that. So that's a very difficult question, but what I will tell you is I'm a woman, I'm proud to be a woman, I'm grateful to be a woman, and I'm grateful for what my body can do, and I'm grateful for men and what they can do. And the sooner that we can respect that and respect each other, the world becomes a better place.
Thank you. Xavier?
An adult human female. That's not my opinion, that's science. So look, I talk a lot about being a human being and having compassion for people. And I believe every human being has dignity. That's why I'm pro-life. So this issue here, if people want to believe they're a gender, that's their business. I don't have a problem with that. And, you know, I can love them, I can hug them and accept them for who they are. But there's some issues here that, you know, we live in a liberal democracy, and that means if you're not hurting anybody, live your life. But the problem is, if you look at women's sports, and you have biological men competing in that, and I just think that's wrong. I think, I don't know how to fix that, but I think that hurts real women, right? I think that hurts women, you know, women have fought so long for equality in their place, and then here comes men taking it away from them. I think that's kind of ironic, but hey, look, I respect everybody, and you know, it is really a 5-second answer, but give you a little bit more on that. I'm using my time, so anyway, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Xavier, stay on that mic, because I'm going to hit you with this one next.
Great.
As an assembly member, what will you do to remedy the climate crisis?
Oh boy.
In terms of mitigation or reduction of the emission of greenhouse gases?
So I don't think renewables are going to solve the problem. And I want to say this. I don't believe in alarmism. We've heard predictions 30 years ago. You know, the Maldives Islands are supposed to be underwater by now, and just recently they spent $400 million on resorts. So, but carbon is a greenhouse gas, and when you increase greenhouse gas, there is an effect. But you're not going to get, solar and wind ain't going to cut it. You're going to need nuclear power, and for those too young to know what that is, it's not a bomb, it's not a weapon, okay? And it's not Chernobyl. Chernobyl wasn't built correctly. American nuclear energy is safe. And if you want to reduce carbon, you're going to need to go, there's no other way but nuclear. By the way, the world's consumption of energy, and it's going to be fossil fuels in the next 25 years, is going to go up exponentially. So the only way to keep, if your goal is to reduce carbon emissions, again, it goes back to nuclear. Solar doesn't work at night. Wind doesn't work when the wind's not blowing. If you're gonna use batteries, then you got to build double the amount because you need energy for the day and for the night to charge the batteries. It's unsustainable, and you will drive up the prices of renewables. I'm done.
Alexandra, as Assembly member, what will you do to help reduce the emission of greenhouse gases?
So we've all heard about the fart tax, I'm sure, and that's that's a hot button topic in my industry. You know, when we talk about methane gas from dairy cows, and it's absolutely ridiculous to me when we're looking at that as something to mitigate rather than the other things that we can be doing for our world to make it a more sustainable place. And what it comes down to is we have a really great data, but we're really terrible about interpreting that data of how we can use it for the future. And things like nuclear energy, things like fossil fuels, as much as we'd like to get away from them, we got to this point because of them. We have the industry that we have because of them. And I'm all for things like electric vehicles. However, when we're bringing in regulation for electric vehicles, but we don't even have the technology to make that a sustainable option, we have to make sure that we're mitigating damages, but we're not slowing progress. As far as what I would do, a lot of the agencies that we have, they aim to reduce greenhouse gases, but they're not always the best at explaining how that happens. We all as a community need to be better about how we treat our environment, but regardless of what happens, studies have shown throughout the years that things like climate change and the way the greenhouse gas emissions go are going to happen regardless of if humans were here or not. So I want to fight for our future. I want my kids to be able to play soccer and not have to gasp for air, but for the moment, what we can do is continue to explore the best options and make sure that we're using our data and our research to our benefit.
Rubén, Macareno, as an Assembly member, what will you do to address the greenhouse gas emissions?
You know, there's no easy answer to this. I mean, climate change, we're all witnessing it right now. You know, one of the things is that, you know, for instance, in Los Angeles, I remember 20, 25 years ago, you would have brown skies. I don't know, some of you, if you were go to LA, your hair would be rusty, almost like crunchy, because of all the pollution that's in the air. And they had to change a lot of rules and instill a lot of regulations. And LA is no longer that type of place, although they still have a lot of pollution. Just like in Tulare County, we have a lot of pollution. I think we rank at 1 or number 2 in the country. So there is a lot that we need to do. We need to, in terms of what's happening to our planet, you know, it's such a global thing, but it's also very local. And, you know, one of the things that, I'm no expert in climate, I'm no expert in anything, I'm just a regular guy from Tulare County that wants to save the place for my future generations of families and friends. One of the things that I would want to do as an Assembly member is create a coalition of scientists and of community members to kind of come together with some type of resolution that we can start from a very center point and grow out from there. Because I think all of us doing our part, our footprint is important. Not just the big things, but what we do as an individual. And how are we going to do that? We need guidance. We don't have folks that are prepared for this type of work. I mean, even right now. So we have a lot to do. We need a lot of education in this area. So much that we have to do. Thank you so much.
Angel?
So we know that CO2 is a huge problem, right? I'm a GIS analyst, I analyze data, I see maps every single day when it comes to weather patterns and all of that. However, I can tell you that on the 99 and the 198, we don't have any charging stations. There are no charging stations for anybody driving a Tesla. or driving an electric car, right? You don't have that. The highway speed rail is coming through Kings County. That's our district, AC 8033. And I can tell you that there's the hottest area in our district. It's between Tulare and Kings County, right? So we need to put a solar farm there. And if anybody works for the solar company, reach out to me. I can give you the exact coordinates where we can build this. There are grants out there by the federal government. There are grants out there by the state government that we can use in funds to fund this, right? So, you know, the answers are there. With solar is the way to go. It's the sun. All we gotta do is harvest it and then, you know, use it to our advantage.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask another question from our panel that can be put up on the screen. Number 4. What do you tell your constituents when they say they don't trust the electoral process? Alexandra, you're first, sorry.
It is really unfortunate that a series of events have led to where people don't trust the government. They don't trust the electoral process. They don't trust a lot of people that they should have trust in. And how do we rebuild that trust? Well, we need to be transparent. We need to let people know that their voice matters. And I believe the best way to do that is exactly what you guys are doing here tonight. You're involved in politics. You're asking the questions. You're holding your elected officials accountable. You're showing up to vote. And as long as that happens, your voices should be heard. And if they're not, then there's a problem with our process. That's what our forefathers wrote the wonderful Constitution for, is to make sure that people had faith in their government and that their voices were heard. We need to rebuild that. We need people to feel connected to the electoral process. We need people to feel that they can trust the government and what they say. I am a huge proponent of that. Authenticity, transparency is where we need to be in the electoral process and as your leaders.
Xavier, Avila, what do you tell your constituents when they say they don't trust the electoral process?
Well, it's interesting, that question, because, you know, some could take that as with the 2020 election, but I remember in the 2016 election, the people that felt that their person lost felt the same way. So I just want to make sure this is a problem on both sides, not just one, the perception. But, you know, I think the way we used to vote, where people showed up in person, I think if you want to bring integrity to it, voter ID. If you can't get an ID, I mean, what are you doing voting? Things like everybody getting mailed out ballots, I think that's an issue that breeds distrust. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but then you have ballot harvesting. And when you create all these different scenarios, it's the person that created all that that's causing the mistrust. What I hear is some people want to blame the people that don't have the trust, but I think it's the people that created no voter, fighting against voter ID, you know, ballot harvesting, things like that. If you correct that, I think people will have confidence in it.
Angel?
So I would definitely say you need to be involved. The only way that you're going to be able to trust the government is if you go to the water boards, if you participate on events like you are, candidate forums, if you register people to vote, if you tell your friends the importance about voting, if you sit there and you read the legislature, and you read the state budget, the county budget, the city budget, and you inform yourself, and you tell your daughter, your husband, whoever it is, you need to be informed. We need to be informed. Before, we used to be educated citizens, and now we're just looking at whatever's on Facebook, and that's what we're making our, assumption of things. That's not the way government is supposed to be working. When the Constitution was written, it didn't say anything about, hey, social media and things like that. We would get a booklet and we would read the propositions and we would investigate who the candidates were. So I'm for education. That way I'm informing anybody that's a citizen and that's registered to vote, to go in out there and register and registering people to vote.
Rubén, Macareno.
Well, you're all part of the 33rd Assembly District, and you're the folks that go door to door. And I would tell you, if you were to tell me I don't trust our electoral process right now, and I would tell you, well, who do you trust? And I would turn the table and I would say, what would you prefer? What would you want to do? What is it that you expect from our elections division? It is important to actually lay that out to them so that they'll say, well, let me see, we can do this. And it's not a very easy process. What we've had has worked for many, many years. Our democracy has worked across this country, and we've had faith in our electoral system. It's become very politicized, unfortunately, to get a vote or to say, hey, we didn't lose, we won, etc. There's a winner and there's a loser in every election. And we need to take that to heart, because we're not just talking about, do you have trust in election? We're talking about our democracy. Do we trust our democracy? Our elections division here is across the country, across the board. The integrity is important that we see it when we come to presidential elections, state elections, local elections. And I only say, if you're going to go to that ballot box and you're going to cast your ballot, feel that you're being heard. And the only way you're going to be heard is by drawing that X or poking that hole there. That's the only way you're going to know. And talk to your surrounding neighbors and, hey, how did you vote, this, whatever. But regardless of that, we need to trust our system that we have. It's worked, and we should continue to have it. It's the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to a few questions from our audience now.
Are we solving world hunger?
They're tougher, I think. Rubén Macareno, we're starting with you. What would you do to establish growth in new jobs, particularly jobs with potential and excellent benefits and in manufacturing distribution?
Well, this is an ag economy, and I think for one thing is we need to protect it and continue to be a very solid player. A very solid player in that. However, we do need to generate a new kind of economy. There was a congressman out of the Bay Area who was talking about how you can grow your business through the internet and the web and all that stuff, that there's great potential today to create new business for our rural communities in particular, where there's not good jobs or good paying jobs with benefits. Also, the discussion of having folks like Google or having folks like Apple make it attractive for them to come here so that they can actually be able to plant their feet here. The business climate is friendly here. We have a pool of a lot of workers and develop a chain of education through our K through 12 and university system so that they can learn how we can thrive in this economy. That is happening all over the world. It's happening all over the country. There's no reason why it can't happen here in the 33rd Assembly District, which is arguably one of the poor districts in the state of California, if not the nation. So there's things we need to do. We need to be able to branch out and think out.
Angel Ruiz, as an assemblyman, what would you do to establish growth in new jobs?
So this is one of the most important things. It's economical growth, jobs, business. As an assemblyman, the first thing I would want to do is end the broadband that we have. The division that we have of broadband, it needs to go. People in Allensworth and Alpaw, they need to have access to internet. And that will create jobs because that will give you the opportunity to invest in your business, to grow it forth and sell it to the world, right? There are many, many places that have ag that can sell their goods to the world, right? So that would be number one. Number two would be healthcare. I drive again, healthcare. Those are really good paying jobs, nurses. And the people that, are drawing blood, they're getting paid really, really well. So when it comes to healthcare clinics in our rural areas, that's something that's important, that will grow and that will drive our small businesses. That's the priority and that will be the most important things, like I've said before.
I wasn't listening, of course. But Xavier, what would you do to promote job growth in the 33rd Assembly District?
Well, I already talked about it earlier. California is very harsh on businesses here. And if you look at our energy policy, scarcity seems to be the norm, where you drive up energy prices. If you're going to build manufacturing plants and you have high energy costs, you're going to have a high cost of production on the products you produce. California is right here with the San Francisco and LA, with ports that can ship products all over the world, but those products need to be competitive with other products. We have a lot of innovation and technology here, but you have to reduce California's regulations. There's almost 400 and some thousand regulations, I think, compared to New York, that's in the 200,000. And if you look at Texas, those are even lower. When you make it hard to run a business, you lose jobs. Make it easy. California is a great environment for manufacturing and other jobs. And if you create an environment, people will move here and the jobs will come with it. So, build nuclear power plants. But that's the basic thing. Government provides incentives and the people respond to those incentives. So,
thank you. Alexandra?
So I have a multifaceted approach to this issue. As a young business owner and a small business owner, I can firsthand attest to it is very difficult to own a business in the state of California, and it's very hard to have employees, and the hardest part is finding good quality people that want to work, if I'm being completely bluntly honest with you. So first of all, I agree, we need to support business owners. We need to quit making the cost of business so high that we're driving businesses out of California, because that alone is not only creating jobs, it is the jobs. But on top of that, I want to make sure that our community has resources for technical and vocational training, that we're creating an employable job force. And we're making sure that those resources are staying here in the Central Valley. That's exactly why I went to law school here in the Central Valley, and I returned to the Central Valley after my education, because I want our resources here. So how do we create jobs in the Central Valley? We make business owners feel supported and not scared to open their doors every day, and we create an employable workforce that has marketable skills.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. Hold on to that microphone. This is another question from the audience. High-speed rail. Is it time to stop it?
You know, in agriculture, I watched family farms that have been in this world for generations that were taken by eminent domain, and it's heartbreaking. And guess what? That ground is never going back into production for agriculture. However, we have invested lots and lots of money into infrastructure that's here. We need to not only force transparency, we need to ask the right questions of where this money was spent and how it was spent. And whatever money we have left, there is oversight for it. It's here. It's unfortunate, some of the white elephants that we have on the side of our freeways, but we've got to make lemonade out of limes here. And we have the infrastructure here. Let's make it happen, and let's learn from this and make sure we don't repeat history and allow projects like this to get the funding that this project got to begin with.
Xavier, Avila, high-speed rail, is it time to stop it?
absolutely, it's time. You look at the billions of dollars that we're spending, and you haven't even laid a track yet, and when you get it in, it's going to run, what, from Bakersfield to Merced? Who's going to ride that? What, you don't need to jump on a train to ride from a few hundred miles. I'm not against high-speed rail. I think the first thing should have went from LA to Las Vegas. That would have been the place to start, because it would have worked there and people would have rode it. But when you look at our crumbling roads and other infrastructure, and we're sinking money into something that's never even going to be used. And hey, I also think there needs to be investigation on how that money was spent and who got contracts, because I think a lot of that was done to put money in people's pockets, political favors, and the way it's handled, I got a lot of questions. But yes, it's time to pull the plug on it and invest that money into other things that are going to bring value to the state of California and to the valley. Thousands of years from now, people are going to look at those and try to figure out what they are, just like we do with Stonehenge today. So I already call it the modern Stonehenge.
Angel Ruiz?
So I don't think we need to stop it. I mean, we're already spending billions of dollars on it. Let's finish the project all the way through and see what it can get us, right? I know that I mentioned at the beginning when we started speaking that I wanted to build common ground with Sacramento and our district, right? We don't have that. So we'll have a bigger divide if we stop the high-speed rail. I mean, I'm for it. Let's continue, let's finish it. We're already halfway through. Why are we going to stop something that we don't know what it could do, the potential things that could happen with high-speed rail?
Finally, Rubén Macareno, high-speed rail, stop it or kill it or keep it?
I say to keep it but downsize it. I also agree that the tough questions have to be asked, how the money is being spent, where the line's actually going to begin and where it's actually going to end. What's the ultimate goal? One of the things about government and leaders that serve in the legislature or any community is to have the vision for tomorrow. We can't just see past our hand. We need to be able to see for tomorrow for future generations, laying the groundwork. We already started. We already spent billions of dollars. True, it's perhaps mismanaged and it should have been done better. However, we need to continue. We made that investment. We need to be able to not only downsize it, but to be accountable to the voters and to the taxpayer and say, okay, this is how the money's being spent. And this is the report to you. I believe high on government transparency. When I worked for the Los Angeles Times, one of the things that I've learned most in anything that's most important about an elected official is to be honest and frank with the voters. Not to hide, not to discolor, not to paint a different color, but to be real. That way we can make the right decisions, the right budgetary decisions, and also the decisions for tomorrow. Very important. I say we should continue.
Another question from our audience. Angel Ruiz, will be starting with you. Why do you think higher education is not a priority in Tulare County? And what will you do to bring higher ed to Assembly District 33? When they say higher education, I presume they're meaning a 4-year university.
I can tell you this, college is not for everybody. I know how difficult it is to go through college. I went through the community college system and from there I transferred to CSUN. Believe me, it wasn't easy, it's hard. I'm also in favor of trades. I'm also in favor of people being plumbers. I'm also in favor of people being welders, of people working in the trades and building things, because college is not for everybody. At one point, I got to the point where I thought I needed to drop out of college. Luckily, I didn't. But I'm in favor of people following their passion. I'm in favor of people following a job that support them. When it comes to higher education here in our area, we need to have some sort of college and have that option for people. In our district, we only have Ridley College, we have Porterville, and that's it. That's it. So we definitely need to have something in Kings County. We need to have something that's in our district, and we need to have something that's in our area so people can have a choice to continue higher education. And if they choose to be teachers, that's their thing. If they want to be plumbers, I support that. Anything that they do and that's their choice for them to do to get where they want to be in life, I support that.
Rubén Macareno, higher education in Assembly District 33?
I've always advocated for a university in this area, particularly the third district. Driving to Fresno to the park, sometimes that's not a great thing. Bakersfield's way too far as well. I know the Visalia-Sequoia has their, the Visalia campus, CSU campus there, but we could do more. And I think we should do more. In this area, there's so much to study, not only our ag-based environment, but also we have so many issues in terms of contaminated waters, disease, biological diseases going around. All this stuff, we're a perfect place to study a lot of things that need to be fixed. A university, a research university actually would be ideal for this area. I would still, to this day, despite the proximity of Fresno State and Bakersfield and whatnot, I would still promote for this area to have some type of research university, may it be through the UC system or Cal State system, but I think it's important that we have something like that so that we can also keep our students here and thrive in this area as well. I think it's so very important that we provide that for our students and future generations.
Alexandra Macedo?
As somebody who was involved in higher education, I can appreciate the need for it because I would work all day and then I drive to Clovis to go to law school at night. And then for those of you that don't know, law school involves a lot of reading and very little sleep. So I would have loved to have higher education closer to me, but let's talk about our children that we are leading the nation in illiteracy. The retention rates of school are at an all-time low. So I would love to have higher education, but we need to support our youth to make sure that our youth are involved in our education starting from the beginning, and then they get excited to pursue higher education later on. We are so blessed to have things like College of the Sequoias and Reedley College that they allow you the opportunity to find your passion if you don't know what it is at 18 years old, because a lot of children don't, or young people don't, and then transfer to a four-year university if that's what they choose, or to pursue a vocational trade. We have awesome resources here that we need to make sure that the community knows about and that they can pursue, but we need to make sure that we're cultivating that generation to use those resources starting at a young age, and that's supporting our teachers and encouraging parents to be involved in their children's education.
David Avila, higher education, 4-year university for Assembly District 33.
Right, so if you look at the population in the district, and I know Visalia isn't in the district, but if you look at Tulare County and Kings County, you've got a huge population there without a university. And I think higher education is a way out for a lot of, this district is one of the hardest hit economically districts, low income. The way out of that is higher education. Take like nurses. I think it was Tim Heyer told me last year there was 1,500 students in Tulare County wanting to go into nursing school, but only 30 some of them got into nursing school. There's not enough classrooms and teachers. It's hurting the hospitals. It's hurting the people who go to the hospitals. My oldest son is his second year at UC Davis Veterinarian School. My oldest daughter is now 3 years. She graduated Fresno State. She's a teacher. I see kids getting higher education and improving their lives and becoming taxpayers. So I do believe a 4-year college should be looked at here. It's about time. The population's increasing. And you think about how cheaper it would be to go through college if kids could live here and drive to school instead of having to rent and go through a lot of the expenses they have to go through.
Okay, another question from our audience, Alexandra. What would you do to address the issues of homelessness and affordable housing in California?
This is where I wish I had a magic wand and I could tell you that I could solve this crisis. This crisis has been long in the making, and unfortunately the homeless crisis branches out into many other issues like public safety and drug addiction and other things like that that we don't have enough time for that answer tonight, so I'll give you the short version here. Each district, each county has different solutions that are appropriate for their homeless population. And the state of California cannot use a blanket statement to solve the homeless crisis in California. Since 2018, we've spent $20 billion on the homeless crisis, and for every one person that was taken off the streets, 3 more were added. Clearly, whatever we're doing is not working, and we have ballot initiatives for another $6 billion to go towards those same practices. That's not fiscally responsible with $68 billion deficit. So we need to look at the data and see what's working in the communities. We need to talk to community leaders to see what we can do to support the communities and make sure that they have the resources that they need. I applaud people like Adrienne Hillman, who's involved with Salt and Light, who she's not only creating housing, she's creating purpose and job training for our homeless population. And we need to not just move them somewhere else, we need to give them a pathway to success and stable living.
Xavier, Avila, what would you do to address homelessness and affordable housing in the state of California?
Well, first thing with affordable housing, some of your cities are getting ran over by some of the mandates with the state on where to build some of the affordable housing. So that has to be corrected. I do support affordable housing. As far as the homeless go, that's a complex situation. But you have drug addiction, and that's a big problem. I would repeal. The other part is the criminal element. A lot of people are getting out of prisons. You have Prop 47 that took a lot of felonies down to misdemeanors. And then you have Prop 57 with early release. And so where do they go? They go on the streets. And if you talk to the homeless, there's a lot of crime that happens from homeless to homeless person. And the answer is to get tough back on crime again. I guarantee you, you would take people off the streets. Would they be incarcerated? Yes, but the citizens are paying the price for this. I think people are tired of having to deal with the negative outcomes of this. So a lot of it, I think, is the criminal element that could be reduced by, tougher sentences and rolling back soft on crime policies.
Thank you. Angel Ruiz, would you address the issue of homelessness and affordable housing in California?
Well, I actually have a question to your question, because what's affordable housing to you? $500,000 home, or 150,000 home, or I don't know what affordable housing is. Is it just being able to pay your rent? I would need to be clarified more on that, please.
That's way above my pay grade. I know affordable housing is kind of a buzzword. Make of it what you will. This comes from the audience. Do the best you can.
So my main concern is the youth that are unhoused. That's a priority. That's a thing that's dear to my heart. That's something that I see in the streets of West Tulare where I live and I reside. And it's heartening. And East Porterville, the things that are going on over there when it comes to the unhoused population, it's sad. It's unhumane. That's the first thing. Secondly, I would definitely create or push for tiny houses. I know that's something that's being implemented throughout the state of California, and I think that's something that we might need to be implemented here, because what we have right now at the tents, and it's 22 degrees outside, that's not working. Or when it's 110 degrees outside, I also don't think that's working. They're human beings. If they're human beings, let's treat them like human beings. Let's ensure that they have air conditioning. Let's ensure that they have heating, because it gets really, really cold here in our district. So that's what I would definitely do. But my main concern will be the youth that are unhoused, because I feel like they're forgotten, and that's something that's dear to my heart.
Rubén, Macareno, your thoughts on homelessness and affordable housing?
It isn't going to be to criminalize someone that doesn't have a home. In fact, the Supreme Court is going to hear if cities can ban encampments throughout, the country. And I'm very sympathetic to those that are homeless. I come from a very humanistic approach. I'm very empathetic for people in general, regardless of who they are, what affiliation, whatever the case is. But I also, I understand the frustration and the blight that comes with it, the criminalization that comes to the community, the concerns of that. So we're that's a very tough, which also addresses affordable housing. What is decent affordable housing? Now, I know cities are asked, if you're gonna remove an encampment, you need to move those group of folks into what is quote unquote a decent shelter. Well, that could vary as to what, as I'm going to say, but what does that really mean? What's affordable housing mean? Does it mean a cardboard box, or does it mean a beautiful, nice apartment? A lot of things still need to be identified as to what is what. And I'm sympathetic to it, to both sides, to the homeless that in many cases, without their choosing, they're homeless. And at the same time, I also appreciate folks that work very hard to have a nice home and to have a nice community. And then it's kind of like, okay, they're not moving there. I can't take a walk there. I can't take my children to the park. I can't do all these things. We need to find a balance. And I think that's one of the things that I would want to work in the assembly to try to figure out how we can address those issues.
Thank you. Another one from the audience, starting with Xavier Avila. Would you approve legislation to criminalize hate speech?
Well, I guess I'm not, I would ask to define hate speech, but the one thing we have is the First Amendment, where you have your right of free speech. And I'd be a little worried that some people would interpret somebody's awful things that they're saying, but they have a right to say it as hate speech. So you're getting to a really messy area. I would have to know exactly what that is, but I would support the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights when it comes to people's freedoms. If people say something ugly, they're showing you who they are, so I wouldn't do anything that violated the Constitution or a Bill of Rights. Freedom is more important than your feelings. So people say horrible things all the time, and it's too bad. But to legislate that, I think, would be way more horrible. You'll end up with fascism, because who determines what's what, right? It'll mean anything, any word you say could be dubbed offensive, right? So.
Rubén, Macareno?
Well, I too am for the freedom of speech, and I think that's very important that we keep that. I myself, I encourage, and if I were to, a word comes out that I can remember, I feel like, oh my God, I said something wrong. I could be wrong myself. So much less hearing someone else, attack someone and just hate speech or whatnot. Case, yeah, it's ugly. Yeah, it does tell you who you are. It does all those ugly things. It separates the community. It breaks us up. But it's so important to have those freedoms to be able to speak our mind. If you're angry, there's going to be times where you're going to say something that perhaps you wouldn't have said if you were not so angry. And we can't take away that right. We can't criminalize that. Because a lot of times we say things when we're at the heat of passion. And sometimes, it's like, okay, well, it's how I felt at the moment. We can't take away that moment. Because someone else felt like, oh, they attacked me, and then later on they're going to feel like, well, it was at the heat of the moment, and it's not exactly what I meant. What I meant was this. So no, I stand with the freedom of speech, and that should not be criminalized.
Alexandra, Macedo?
I don't know about all of you, but I was raised that if you didn't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I think we've all heard that once or twice. Now, I don't have control over what other people say or do, but I can tell you I sat through copious amounts of hours of constitutional law classes, And this is too general of a question when it comes to what's being said, because there's various restrictions on time and place, and I won't bore you with the details, because Lord knows I was bored to tears, and even the greatest legal minds in our world struggle with these kinds of questions. Our Constitution is our superior law of the land, and we have years and years of case precedent that have shown us what is and is not okay, and what's violating other people's American rights. This is a humanitarian issue as well. That, listen, I went to college and I saw some of the hate speech that would happen, and it's unfortunate. We can't control what other people do. It's not my job to tell people what to say or when to say it or how to say it, but what we can do is look back at our Constitution of what is allowed, what is not allowed. We can look back at case law and things of that nature, but our state legislatures shouldn't be the ones that are making this decision. It should be our mothers and fathers who are encouraging kids to be nice.
Angel?
Hate speech. I don't even know where to begin. I'll start with that. But I do say one thing, that you're entitled to your opinion, right? That's the first thing. The second thing, if you're saying things to harm other people, then I don't think you should be saying them. That's plain and simple, right? We have to take it upon ourselves to say, I understand there's disagreements. I understand there's things that we completely don't agree with and disagree with. But there is a certain way where we can say things without hurting people or putting people down or doing things of that nature. There has to be a clear understanding of what hate speech is, and just like everybody at the table, I too support the United States Constitution. I've read it. It's one of those things that I read quite often, actually, and I support the First Amendment.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the audience for your questions. For our final two questions, we're going to return to the ones that our committee has constructed. And Alexandra, Macedo, this will be you first. Young people are wondering if they will ever be able to afford a home and have children. Families are wondering how they are going to pay their bills. And many seniors are living paycheck to paycheck. How are you going to make California more livable if you are elected to the Assembly?
Well, I hope I'm classified as a young person. I don't know what the meter there is, but I understand what it's like to be difficult to get a start in life. And the average age of a first-time homebuyer is 49 years old in the state of California. That's a problem. That's not getting a start in life. That's when you should be enjoying your life and enjoying all the things that you worked hard for. So the cost of living is a buzzword, right? We all want to know how we're going to afford to live here. Well, we've talked about it multiple times tonight. We need people to feel happy living in their communities, spending their dollars in their communities, providing jobs in our communities, and making sure that business can thrive. Because if business can thrive, then guess what? People are paying taxes. We have a budget that we can make sure we're driving down the cost of living. We can make sure things like we don't have to make decisions of are we going to fuel up our gas tank or are we going to fill our refrigerator. We need to make sure that people are making a wage that is a livable wage, but the businesses are also able to have their end of the year statement show black and not red. So this is a multifaceted issue that we need cooperation, but it starts with not having legislation that continues to increase the taxes and increase cost of living and keeps money in the pockets of men and women in our communities.
Xavier, Avila, how are you going to make California more livable for young people, for families, for seniors, for everybody?
Well, since I have 7 kids from age 29 to 14, it's a good question for me because all my kids are going to college and a higher education is the answer. You need a higher income. But one of the things I think need to be done is reform or repeal CEQA. It's made building houses you get married, you can't even buy a house, they're too expensive. And when you look at all the costs, CEQA can be used to prevent houses from being built. I mean, that's one thing. There's a lot of other things, but if a young couple get married and they can't even afford to buy a house, that's the American dream, right? That's what people invest in. So The other thing, I've already spoke about it, make California a business-friendly state because the jobs will come, and when you have good paying jobs, you can make it. So there's a whole other lot of things. Our energy policy, we talk about disadvantaged communities. They get hurt the most with these high electric bills and high gas bills, and that's caused by this climate, the climate programs they have. What it's resulting is high energy costs and high gas costs, and that could be a lot cheaper than what it is, make things more affordable. Thank you.
Angel Ruiz, how are we going to make California more livable?
So that's a tricky question because there's a lot of parts to that question. You can't answer it with one simple thing. Number one, for sure, I do think that young people have and need, housing, right? I'm 35, or I'll be 35 next month, and buying a home was one of the greatest things I've done, but it was difficult, it was hard. I had to go through multiple different processes and loopholes and all of those things to ensure that I was able to buy my house. The first thing I would say is getting a good union job, having the trades, having a small business, having multiple sources of income. It's something that I can definitely see. The other thing would be, just expanding our broadband. We know that knowledge is power, so that can definitely help us out as being a millennial and someone that's, haven't figured it out yet, but in the process of figuring out to help young people. That's what I would do.
Hi, Rubén Macareno, how are you going to address the economy to make this state more livable for everybody?
Absolutely. When I was in high school, I took a class called Senior Seminar, and I thought it was one of the best classes ever because it taught you how to prepare, how to buy a car, how to write out a check, how to make American goulash, how to cook, that sort of stuff. I mean, it just showed you everything about life. And also, nowadays people need to take that step forward. In other words, how do I buy a house and start at 16 years old? If you want to buy a house someday, it's very expensive now, you need to know the steps. You have to start preparing today because the jobs, today's economy, today's jobs isn't enough for most people to afford to get into a home. So that needs to be fed into the brain. I would like to see the state assembly actually put that into the curriculum for every high school graduating senior that somehow during their 4 years in high school that they took a class like Senior Seminar so that they are prepared to move forward with the home buying quote unquote experience. Of course, we need to hire training jobs. I think that's very important too because we don't know how much more this is going to go on. But I think it's education. Not necessarily, I'm not talking about higher education. I'm basically talking about teaching our children on the one-on-one from our families and also from our school districts to teach our children to prepare for the real world. And I think that's what we need to do. And I'd like to put that into some type of, in Sacramento.
Thank you. Okay, we've come to our last question of the evening, and somebody in the audience sort of asked the same question, almost not quite the same way, but here it goes. Assemblywoman and actually U.S. Representative Connie Conway, who is in our audience tonight somewhere. Where is Connie? You still here?
No, she left. She had to go to the second Hispanic sheet.
Oh, all right. She was a role model in Sacramento for working across the aisle. Name 3 ways, 3, you plan on working with assembly members not from your party. Rubén Macareno first.
We're Democrats or Republicans because in basically our political system, we're one or the other. And if you're nonpartisan, you really don't have much to participate in or much have a base. I, for instance, in running for office before, I've made a friendship with our past assembly member. I've also worked with others. I find it very fascinating, actually, to hear the other side because I want to learn also. I know they're passionate about where we want to go. I want to be able to understand, and perhaps we can together work. It's called politics, right? The art of compromise. And that's what it's all about. Sharing that thought with other assembly members. I don't care if you have an R, and I don't care if you have a D. I want to know what we're going to do for our district, for our state, and if we have a vision for tomorrow. That's what really excites me, and the excitement is what I would share with the opposing party. Thank you.
Angel Ruiz, and 3 ways that you would work across the aisle with members of, not from your party, in the assembly.
So our assembly district is, it needs a lot of help when it comes to, our population and our people that live here. I think the first way will be building common ground, finding that common knowledge with other assembly members that are going to be on the floor. The second one will be have bipartisan work. To work together on bills. Let's see what's going on, right? Tulare is rural, Kings County is rural. It's not Los Angeles, it's not San Francisco. Those are the things that, and then the third one would be just working out how we can work best for our community, for our constituents, how we can work best for the state and continue to make it, what California is, right? Those would be the 3 ways that I would use.
Thank you very much. Xavier, Avila, 3 ways that you'll work with people not from your party.
Well, I'm already doing it. I sit on the Tulare Healthcare Board, and when the hospital was going bankrupt and run by a corrupt manager, a group of about 40 or 50 of the citizens, Valley Voice knows this, they documented the whole thing. We were diverse group of people. The board was made up of Republicans and Democrats, and we worked with each other because it wasn't a partisan issue. We saved the hospital from bankruptcy and permanent foreclosure. We refinanced the bonds. Same thing. We saved taxpayers in our district $34 million. So I'm already doing it. When I was with Land O'Lakes and state of California brought in methane reductions for the dairies, drove to Sacramento and we lobbied the assembly and to come up with the funds for that because it was a pretty expensive project, and we told them if you're going to mandate something, then at least fund it. So I already have a record of working with everybody. It doesn't matter. I am a Valley-crat, and that means I think the Valley needs help more than the other areas. A Democrat coined that phrase. I don't. I'm a big fan of Nicole Parra, who's also a Valley-crat, and we're not supposed to refer to him, but I think Rubén's one too. So,
Alexandra, it's up to you.
I love to tell people this. I'm a Christian first, I'm an American second, and then I'm a Republican. So when it comes to making a decision, I look at what's best for my country, what's best for my community, what's best for my state. And Connie Conway is not only an endorser of mine, she is a mentor of mine. And we were just talking today about times that she faced a lot of flack for working across the aisle. And people asking her, why are you working with them? And she said, well, they're my friends. I want to look at my constituents in Sacramento, if elected, as my friends. I want to build relationships and networks that are not red or blue. It doesn't matter if you're male or female or where you come from or what you associate with. We are all working for the common good of California. And much like Xavier, I'm already working across the aisle because I work with environmental agencies that believe something very different than I do. And I have to be the middleman between my clients who are farmers and environmentalists who believe we're ruining our environment with doing what we're doing. And that's simply not true. We're the stewards of the land and the best environmentalists out there. But that's what I want to do. I want to be friends and be friendly. I want to create relationships and networks that allow us to accomplish more. And I want to find value in people and what people want so we can start somewhere, because we have to get to the table before we can even have the conversation.
Very good. That concludes the question portion of our forum. In just a second, we will invite the candidates to deliver a closing statement. But before they do, I want to acknowledge and thank the sponsors of our forum tonight, the American Association of University Women, the League of United Latin American Citizens, the Tulare County League of Mexican American Women, the Valley Voice, the Visalia-Sequoia Delta, and of course the League of Women Voters of Tulare County. Thank you all. Give them a nice round of applause, please. Helping us out tonight have been our screeners who have been sitting behind me here, Sherry Bentley of AAUW, Catherine Doe of the Valley Voice. Next to me is Donna McKeel, who's been helping screen the questions, keeping me on task and being orderly. And thank you to our timekeepers, Dale Simmons and Kathy Drusen. We get it right that time? Thank you. Give them a nice round of applause. I'm going to ask our candidates to deliver a 1-minute closing statement in reverse order, the way we started. So we're going to go down the dais, starting with, you got it, Angel. Up to you.
Now more than ever, I need your help. I can't do this alone. I already knocked on 8,000 houses. I spoke to about 6,000 different people. I ran out of literature. That's why I don't have a table outside. I need you to go home, tell your friends, tell your family members, church, everywhere you go. We have an awesome candidate running for Assembly District 33. His name is Angel, and he cannot win alone. He needs your help. He needs you to go and knock on some doors, retweet, do Facebook, do us a like. We need to be, like I've said before, we need to build common ground, and most importantly, we need to work with Sacramento and not divide ourselves from Sacramento, which we've done for far too long. Now more than ever, I need your help. Angel Ruiz is the assembly member that will be representing you in the fall.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here tonight. You are the catalyst that makes government successful, so thank you for being here. I put my boots on every morning and go to work in Tulare. I was born and raised in Tulare. This is my home. This is where I want to fight to protect, preserve, and let the world know how great it is what we do here in Assembly District 33. If elected, I want to serve in Sacramento. I do not want to be a Sacramento politician. I want to be a grassroots politician that your voice is heard. I want you to have my contact information, my cell phone number. You want to sit down for coffee, you call me. I love to meet people, and clearly I love to talk. So call me, let's meet, let's have a conversation, whether you agree with me or you don't. I want to represent you, and I want to make sure that you feel respected and heard in your politics. Thank you so much.
Louis?
Well, I want you to know who I am. I think that's very important for the voter to know who they're going to vote for. I raised millions of dollars for underprivileged children, and I did that for 6 years. So that's important to me. The idea of helping others has always been a top priority for me. I have a background in journalism, so being transparent and honest with constituency is so very important to me as well. Being a watchdog of government within the government, I think it's important. Also, I already have relationships in Sacramento. I dare say friends, the Speaker of the Assembly, people in Southern California, Juan Carrillo, Ana Caballero, of course, and Melissa Hurtado, and others throughout the state. Because I've had a really long-term relationship, I can go ground running, starting to build up an agenda coalition for our needs here in the 33rd Assembly District. And trust me, we need it. We need to support, we need to voice, and it's not just, doesn't just take one person, it takes a coalition person to move forward. Thank you.
Excuse me. I invite you to go to my Facebook page and go down my history and look at all the things I'm involved with. When there's events downtown Tulare, I go down there and I mingle with all the people. And I'm going to stress to vote for people who love people, because if you're close to the people, that's where your heart's at, and Sacramento will tear you apart. Vote for somebody with experience. I talked about the hospital, how it was in trouble. I was part of a group that came and fixed that. And at that time, the leaders, the establishment of Tulare were doing nothing. The city council was a mess. I got involved and helped get people elected to the city council. You don't hear about that anymore. Ask Catherine. So go with the proven track record, because you can count on somebody's track record. If somebody doesn't have a track record, anything's possible. Again, Sacramento is a tough place, and you don't know how people are going to react to it. Thank you. Vote for me March 5th, Xavier, Avila.
Serving in public office is a very thankless job, especially these days. They do not get the gratitude or the appreciation that they deserve. They devote a lot of time and a lot of themselves to serving us and being our voice in our elected bodies. They deserve our gratitude, our appreciation, and our applause. Now's the time. Before I send you all out, I forgot to mention a couple of people that helped us out tonight on the tech side. Brian Gerhardt has been doing our PowerPoints and sound system. Antonio Maldonado has been filming us for live streaming. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you all for, especially thank you all, excuse me, for coming out on this chilly January evening for this exercise of democracy. We really appreciate it. I know the candidates do and our sponsors do. Remember to vote on March 5th. Thank you.